The rain had long since stopped, but the palace still smelled faintly of smoke, old, forgotten smoke that clung to the stone like a memory that refused to die. Lyra moved through the grand hall with her head bowed, a silver tray balanced carefully in her hands. Her plain linen dress brushed the polished floor, absorbing the hush of whispers and the scrape of noble boots. Servants were meant to be unseen here, especially ones like her, ones with eyes that caught the light wrong, silver instead of brown, shimmering like moonlit water. She kept them lowered always. Keep your pace steady, whispered Marin, the older maid beside her. Don't look at them. Don't ever look at him. Lyra didn't ask who him was. She already knew. The air itself seemed to know. The pressure changed when he entered, thickening with dominance and something primal. Alpha Kale of the Bloodbane Pack, the king's favored warrior, the one who commanded armies and made others tremble simply by existing. He stood near the dais, speaking with the royal council, his voice deep and calm, carrying the weight of command. Lyra's pulse quickened. The scent of pine and storm surrounded him, sharp enough to stir the wolf buried deep in her blood, a wolf she had never dared to let surface. When his gaze swept across the hall, she felt it before she saw it. The faintest ripple in the air, his eyes, dark amber like sun through whiskey, met hers for the briefest heartbeat. Her tray almost slipped. He frowned, nostrils flaring. For a terrifying instant, he looked at her as if trying to place a memory that didn't belong to him. Then his jaw tightened and he looked away. Lyra exhaled shakily. She lowered her head and hurried past him, her pulse pounding in her ears. But even as she retreated to the shadows, she could still feel his gaze on her skin. Hot, questioning, dangerous. Behind her, Kale's beta murmured quietly, Alpha, something wrong. Kale's voice was low, uncertain. Her scent, I've never smelled anything like it. The beta laughed softly, she's just a servant. Kale didn't answer. His eyes lingered on the path where she had vanished, and something deep inside him growled in restless confusion. He didn't know why the scent of that servant made his wolf stir, or why, for the first time in years, the air around him smelled faintly of moonlight. The palace glittered that night like a jeweled trap. Music swelled through the banquet hall via Lynn's laughter, the chime of gold and glass. Lyra moved silently between tables, refilling goblets and placing silver dishes before nobles who didn't even glance her way. Her hands trembled, but she forced them still. Servants didn't get to shake. Servants didn't get to feel. At the head of the hall sat Alpha Kale beside the royal heir, his posture rigid, expression unreadable. The torchlight painted his features in bronze and shadow. His presence dominated the room, even in silence. Every movement of his hand, every flicker of his gaze commanded attention. Lyra tried to avoid him, circling to the far end of the long table, but fate had cruel timing. The head steward's voice cut through the chatter, Girl, bring the Alpha his wine. Her stomach dropped. She stepped forward, the silver pitcher heavy in her shaking grip. Her palms were slick with sweat as she approached the dais. Kale looked up when she stopped before him. The same strange awareness passed between them. Sharp, electric, impossible to ignore. His nostrils flared again. That scent, that pull. Lyra bowed, eyes downcast, and poured. But her nerves betrayed her. The handle slipped. Red wine cascaded like blood down the Alpha's black sleeve. Gasps rippled through the hall. The music faltered. Kale froze, wine dripping from his fingers. Around him, nobles whispered, snickering behind jeweled fans. I'm so sorry, my lord. Lyra stammered, reaching instinctively for the cloth at her waist. Enough. Kale said softly, but his voice carried like thunder. The head steward paled. Alpha, please, she's a Kale's chair scraped back as he stood. His towering frame cast her in shadow. His jaw clenched as though he fought something deeper than anger. You've ruined a royal feast, he said coldly, though his eyes betrayed confusion, conflict. Get her out of my sight. Laughter broke around them, cruel, bright, echoing. Lyra's cheeks burned. 2 guards moved toward her, but she stepped back, trembling. Please, I didn't mean enough, Kale barked. She flinched at the tone. Something shattered inside her, something that had been quietly hopeful since the moment his eyes first met hers. As the guards dragged her toward the door, Kale turned away, but his wolf howled in protest inside his chest, low and guttural. He didn't understand it, Didn't asterisk want asterisk to. But as the door slammed behind her, the hall felt suddenly too quiet, too hollow, and Cale realized with a sinking unease that the scent of moonlight was gone. The night air outside the banquet hall was cold and sharp, tasting of rain and humiliation. Lyra stumbled into the servants' courtyard, her hands still stained with wine and shame. The laughter of nobles still echoed in her ears, each sound another cut she couldn't hide from. She pressed her back against the stone wall, fighting to breathe. The scent of pine and thunder still clung to her asterisk, his asterisk scent, and it made her heart ache for reasons she didn't understand. Inside the hall, Cale stood motionless long after she'd been dragged away. His wolf prowled restlessly beneath his skin, snarling at him, urging him to move. Asterisk, go after her, claim her, she's ours. Asterisk, no. He growled under his breath, slamming his goblet onto the table. His beta shot him a confused glance. Alpha, Cale's eyes darkened. Nothing, just the wine. But it wasn't the wine. It was asterisk her asterisk, that intoxicating, impossible scent, the way his pulse had surged the moment she'd trembled before him. He shoved his chair back and left the hall, ignoring the whispers that followed. The night swallowed him whole as he stepped into the courtyard, his boots crunching against the gravel. He didn't know what he was looking for until he found her. Curled against the wall, shivering, eyes wide and wet in the moonlight. The world stilled. Her silver eyes met his, unguarded this time, and something ancient sparked between them, like lightning remembering where it first struck. Cale froze, his wolf went silent. The truth hit him like a blow, asterisk mate. Asterisk his breath caught. No, it couldn't be, not her. Lyra saw the change in his expression, the disbelief, the rejection blooming before he even spoke. Her heart sank. You, he said hoarsely, you can't be. She swallowed hard, voice trembling. What do you mean? He stepped closer, fury and confusion warring in his face. I don't know what kind of trick this is, but it's not possible. A servant, my mate. He spat the word like it poisoned him. Lyra's throat tightened. I never asked, then forget it ever happened. His voice was low, final. I reject you. The words struck like blades through her chest. The mark on her shoulder flared beneath her skin, burning as if the moon itself mourned. Cale turned away before he could see her fall to her knees. The scent of her pain followed him long after he left, haunting him like a curse he couldn't name. And high above them, the blood, red moon began to wane, its glow dimming as though it, too, grieved the Alpha's choice. The dawn came pale and heavy, pressing down on the palace like a secret no one wanted to keep. Lyra kept her head bowed as she scrubbed the marble floors, the bristles of her brush biting into her raw fingers. Every scrape reminded her of last night, of his voice, of that single, brutal word, asterisk rejected. Asterisk the others had heard, of course. Word traveled faster than fire in a dry field. Wherever she walked now, whispers followed. She spilled wine on the Alpha on purpose, I heard. They say he looked at her like she'd bewitched him. Moo-eyed little freak, should have been dismissed already. Lyra bit the inside of her cheek, forcing herself not to react. The taste of iron grounded her. Servants couldn't afford pride, not in this place, not when every eye watched for weakness. By midday, she was sent to the banquet hall again, this time to polish the silver trays the nobles had used. The hall was empty now, stripped of its splendor, but she could still feel echoes of last night in the silence. Her reflection swam in the metal's surface. Pale face, smudged cheeks, eyes too bright. She hated those eyes. They betrayed her. They didn't belong to a servant. They belonged to something else. Something she didn't understand. A rustle behind her made her still. Two maids stood near the archway, whispering. Did you hear what the astrologer said about the moon's eclipse, the one that bled red last night? Yes, he said it's a sign. The Luna's bloodline is stirring again, that someone marked by the moon still lives. Lyra's breath hitched. The older maid scoffed. Fairy tales. The royal babe died 20 years ago. But what if she didn't? The whisper faded as they left, but the words stayed, echoing inside Lyra's chest like a heartbeat that wasn't hers. Asterisk someone marked by the moon still lives. Asterisk her fingers brushed the inside of her sleeve where, hidden beneath linen, a faint warmth pulsed, a mark she'd been born with, one she'd never dared to show. The scent of pine drifted faintly through the open window. Her pulse jumped. He was near. Lyra turned her face toward the hall's shadows, the memory of Cale's eyes burning in her mind. Whatever bound them, whatever the goddess had done, it wasn't finished, and deep within the palace walls, something ancient began to stir. A whisper of destiny, a call from the blood of the lost Luna herself. The kitchens buzzed with tension that evening, pots clanging and tempers snapping like dry twigs. The palace was preparing for another royal visit, and Lyra had been assigned to the scullery, buried among steam, sweat, and shouting. She tried to lose herself in the rhythm of work, scrub, rinse, dry. Ignore the whispers, the pitying glances, the stares that lingered too long. But shame had a way of clinging to her like smoke. Every breath still carried the memory of Cale's voice. Asterisk, I reject you. Asterisk, the words had burned into her bones. Faster, girl, barked the head cook, slamming a ladle against the counter. Lyra flinched and reached for a heavy pot, but another servant shoved past her. Watch where you're going, the girl snapped. Lyra stumbled, the pot slipping from her hands. It crashed to the floor, splashing boiling water across her arm. A cry escaped her lips. She jerked back, clutching her forearm, steam rising from reddened skin. But what made everyone freeze wasn't her scream. It was what the burn revealed. The sleeve had torn, and beneath it, glowing faintly through the pain, was the mark she'd hidden all her life. A crescent moon encircled by silver flame. For a heartbeat, no one breathed. The guard posted near the door took a step forward, his eyes narrowing. What? Is that? Lyra tried to cover it, panic flooding her. Nothing, please. But it was too late. The mark shimmered brighter, reacting to her fear, pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. The guard's face blanched. I've seen that before, he whispered. In the archives, the royal sigil of the lost Luna bloodline. The room erupted. She's cursed. One maid gasped. No, it can't be. Another muttered, crossing herself. Lyra backed away, her chest tightening. I don't know what you're talking about, she said, but her voice shook too hard to convince anyone. The head cook's eyes darted toward the corridor. Fetch the captain, now. Before anyone could move, Lyra bolted. She tore through the servants' passage, her bare feet slapping against cold stone, heart pounding with terror. Her mind screamed with questions. What did the mark mean? Why now? Why her? As she burst into the outer courtyard, the moon broke free from the clouds, full and silver, lighting her path. The mark on her arm shimmered in answer, as though the goddess herself had finally noticed her. Somewhere deep in the palace, Cale's wolf stirred, growling low, restless. He didn't know why, but something told him that the girl he'd rejected was about to change everything. Night fell over the palace like a cloak of ink. The torches burned low in their sconces, and most of the servants had long since retired. But Lyra was awake, hidden beneath the marble stairwell, clutching her burned arm and trembling from more than just pain. The mark had stopped glowing hours ago, but its warmth still pulsed faintly beneath her skin, like a secret heartbeat. She couldn't forget the look in the guard's eyes, the fear, the recognition. Asterisk royal sigil of the lost Luna bloodline. Asterisk, the words circled her mind like ghosts that refused to rest. If they found her now, she'd be dragged before the queen, or worse, silenced before dawn. But she needed answers. The archives were forbidden to servants, but she knew how to reach them. Years of cleaning, the palace had taught her which doors stayed unlocked, which halls the guards ignored. She moved through them like a shadow, her bare feet silent on the cold stone. The door to the archives creaked softly. Inside, the scent of dust and parchment filled the air. Ancient scrolls and bound ledgers lined the shelves, their edges gilded with age. The air felt heavy here, thick with secrets. Lyra's hands shook as she lit a small lamp and began searching. She didn't know what she was looking for, only that she'd know it when she found it. It was a book of genealogies that stopped her. The binding was cracked, the pages brittle. Her fingers traced the title. Asterisk, the royal line of the Silver Moon Pack. Asterisk, she flipped through until a familiar symbol caught her breath. The crescent wrapped in flame, the very mark on her skin. Beneath it, an illustration, a baby girl with silver eyes. The caption read, Asterisk Princess Luna, heir to the moon throne. Presumed dead in the fire of the eclipse, her hands went numb. Princess Luna, the lost royal child, the one whispered about in old tales, her reflection in the lamp's glass seemed to stare back at her, those same eyes, that same mark. No, she whispered, it can't be, but deep inside something ancient stirred, a memory faint but insistent, a woman's voice singing to her under a crimson moon. My little Luna, the moon will guard you when I cannot. The sound of boots in the corridor shattered the moment. Lyra blew out the lamp, plunging the room into darkness. The guards were searching for her. She pressed herself into the shadows as the door creaked open, the faint torchlight spilling across the floor. If they found her now, her secret would die here with her. And yet, even as her heart hammered in her chest, the mark beneath her sleeve burned hotter, guiding her toward a destiny she no longer had the power to escape. The forest beyond the palace walls was alive with whispers. Trees groaned under the weight of the wind, and the moon hung high, old, silver, and watchful. Lyra ran until her lungs ached, her breath forming pale clouds in the chill night air. Behind her, the palace torches flickered like angry eyes. She didn't stop until the forest swallowed the sound of pursuit. But the forest was not empty. A low growl rolled through the mist. Her pulse leapt. She turned, expecting a guard, but what stepped from the shadows was far worse. A wolf, enormous, its fur black as midnight and eyes glowing like molten gold. Its snarl rumbled through the ground, shaking the leaves. And yet, as Lyra's gaze met its own, the world seemed to still. A strange pull tightened in her chest, half fear, half recognition. The same warmth that had burned her arm now spread through her veins. The wolf's growl faltered. It sniffed the air, then lowered its head, uncertain. Lyra stumbled backward, clutching the tree for balance. Stay away, she whispered, but the wolf did not attack. It only stared, as if seeing something it could not comprehend. Then, with a sound almost like a whimper, it turned and vanished into the fog. Moments later, a different sound echoed through the forest, one that made her blood run cold, a howl, long, mournful, and furious. Every creature in the woods fell silent. The air thickened with power, ancient and wild. Lyra's knees gave way, and she fell to the forest floor, the mark on her arm searing like molten fire. Visions flooded her mind, of a burning palace, a mother's scream, a baby torn from her arms, of wolves bowing before a silver moon and one alpha standing defiant. Then a voice, deep and resonant, filled her thoughts. Luna, the bond is awakening. She gasped, clutching her head. Who are you? But the voice faded, replaced by another howl. Closer this time. Branches snapped nearby. A figure emerged from the mist. It was him, the Alpha Prince. His clothes were torn, his chest heaving, his eyes the same molten gold as the wolf's. For a moment neither spoke, only the sound of their breaths and the soft murmur of the wind between them. Then he said, voice rough with disbelief, "It's you. You're the one from the visions." Lyra backed away. "You're mistaken, my lord. I'm no one." He stepped closer, gaze fixed on her arm. "Then why does the moon mark burn when I'm near?" The mark flared, blindingly bright. Lyra cried out, collapsing as a surge of energy shot through her. The forest howled around them, and the moon's light split the clouds. The Alpha reached for her, but before his hand could touch her, the ground trembled and a shadowed figure appeared behind him. "Stay away from her, brother," the stranger hissed. "She's not yours to claim." And as the cursed howl echoed one last time, Lyra realized that her secret had just become the center of a war. The moment froze in time. Moonlight fractured across the clearing, painting silver streaks over the two brothers standing at odds. The Alpha Prince Ronan stood tense, fury flashing in his golden eyes. His brother, Kieran, emerged from the mist, his cloak whispering like smoke. Lyra's pulse thundered in her ears. The air between them was electric, filled with centuries of unspoken rivalry. "Kieran," Ronan growled, his voice low and dangerous, "this is not your territory." A faint smile curved Kieran's lips, "And yet, here I am. Seems the moon's chosen one has wandered into mine." Lyra looked from one to the other. Brothers, yet nothing alike. Ronan radiated warmth and power, while Kieran's presence chilled the air, his aura threaded with shadow and deceit. Kieran's gaze settled on her, dark and piercing. You don't even know what you are, do you, little Luna? Lyra's breath caught. How do you? He lifted a hand, silencing her. You bear the mark of the lost bloodline, but the truth runs deeper. You are the balance this realm lost when the fire consumed the palace. Ronan stepped between them, his hand half, shifting into a claw. Enough, you will not touch her. Kieran's laugh was low and mocking. Protective already, brother. Careful our kind has a habit of killing what we try to save. The words sliced through the air. For a second, Lyra saw pain flicker in Ronan's eyes, a ghost of some old regret. Then the wind shifted, the scent of blood. Kieran's wolves emerged from the mist. Silent, massive, their eyes red as embers. Ronan shifted in a burst of golden light, fur rippling, a snarl tearing from his throat. Run, he barked, his voice distorted by the beast. Lyra hesitated, torn between terror and the magnetic pull she felt toward him. But the ground shook as the wolves lunged. She sprinted into the woods, branches whipping at her face, heart pounding in rhythm with distant growls. Behind her, the clash of fangs and claws tore through the night. She glanced back once, just long enough to see Ronan and Kieran collide, light and shadow locked in a furious dance. Then everything went silent. A flash of gold, a scream. Lyra stumbled into a clearing, falling to her knees. Her hands trembled as she looked up at the moon. It was blood, red now, and in its glow, the mark on her arm pulsed like a heartbeat. Why me? She whispered. Why now? From the darkness came a whisper, not from the brothers, not from any living thing. It was older than them both. Asterisk. Because you are the key to ending their curse, or beginning it anew. Asterisk. The forest fell still. The war between brothers had only begun, and Lyra, the lost Princess Luna, was the prize both would die to claim. The night hung heavy, thick with the scent of blood and smoke. The echoes of the battle still trembled in the air as Lyra stumbled back toward the battlefield, her pulse frantic. Broken branches, claw marks, the earth itself torn open by violence, and then silence. Ronan knelt amid the carnage, fur slick with blood, his chest heaving. The golden light of his wolf dimmed as he shifted back, collapsing to his knees. Kieran was gone, vanished into shadow. Lyra ran to him, her hands trembling as she touched his face. Ronan, you're hurt. He caught her wrist, weak but firm. You shouldn't be here. His voice rasped, pain-laced with command. He's after you, Luna, that name. Luna still felt strange, like a melody she didn't remember learning. He said things. She whispered about me, about the fire, the curse. What did he mean? Ronan's eyes flickered open, gold shimmering faintly in the dark. My brother is bound to the blood moon. He believes the curse that destroyed our pack can be undone by claiming you. Lyra's heart faltered, claiming me, his jaw clenched as his mate. The world tilted. She stumbled back, shaking her head. No, he's lying. He has to be. Ronan rose unsteadily, his body radiating wounded power. He's not lying about everything. The curse began the night the palace burned, when a royal child disappeared, when the moon bled. Her breath caught. Images flashed, fire screaming, a silver cradle. You knew, she whispered, I suspected. He said quietly, but the moment I scented you, my wolf knew. You carry the blood of the lost princess. The wind howled between them, thick with moonlight. Lyra's pulse roared in her ears, and what happens now, if your brother comes for me again? Ronan stepped closer, his voice low and solemn. Then I swear the blood moon oath, before the goddess and the stars themselves, that no harm will come to you while I still draw breath. A faint glow began to shimmer around them, silver and red intertwining. The oath bound itself in light, a tether of energy pulling between them. Lyra felt its heat bloom inside her chest, searing and sacred. You shouldn't have done that, she whispered. That bondit'll cost you everything. He met her gaze, unflinching. You already did. The air trembled. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled. Not from the sky, but from deep beneath the earth. The blood moon had accepted his vow, and its hunger stirred. Lyra looked up just in time to see the moon pulse once, twice, then fracture, spilling red light across the forest. The goddess was watching. And the bond between them was no longer just fate. It was a countdown. The blood moon loomed high, red and merciless, as the forest trembled under the weight of gathering wolves. The howls echoed from every ridge, loyal to Kieran, twisted by the curse. Ronan stood before them, golden aura blazing like dawn. Behind him, the remnants of his pack formed a defensive ring around Lyra. Her silver eyes glowed faintly, the mark on her arm pulsing in rhythm with the moon. "They'll come through the eastern ridge first," Ronan said, his voice steady though exhaustion shadowed his face. "Stay behind me." Lyra shook her head, her breath catching in the cold air. "No, this started with me. It should end with me." He turned to her, eyes fierce. "You're not a weapon, Luna. You're the heart of this prophecy, and hearts aren't meant to bleed for war." Before she could answer, the ground quaked. Shadows surged from the mist, Kieran's wolves, their eyes glowing crimson, their snarls echoing like thunder. At their center, Kieran strode forward, cloaked in darkness, the blood moon flaring behind him. "Brother," Kieran called, his tone smooth, cruel. "Still protecting what you can never keep." Ronan bared his fangs. "You've taken everything from me once, never again." The air ignited with power. In one explosive motion, both shifted, gold and black wolves clashing with a force that split the ground. Claws met claws, light met shadow, and every impact sent shockwaves through the trees. Lyra stood frozen, torn between horror and destiny. The prophecy whispered in her mind, Asterisk, the lost princess shall end the curse or be consumed by it. Asterisk, she stepped forward, lifting her trembling hands. "Moon goddess, guide me," she whispered. The lunar mark on her skin ignited, spilling silver light across the battlefield. The cursed wolves faltered, their snarls fading into confusion. Even Kieran hesitated, his shadow dimming. But the power inside Lyra was wild, ancient, unbound. Her body trembled as light poured from her veins, and Ronan's voice broke through the chaos. "Luna, control it, before it destroys you." "I can't," she cried, tears streaking down her cheeks. "It's too much," Kieran lunged toward her, desperation flashing across his face. "Then let me take it from you," Ronan roared, intercepting him midair. The brothers collided again, but this time, the explosion of light hurled them both backward. Lyra fell to her knees, the moon's energy burning through her chest. "No more blood," she whispered, "no more pain." And with one final breath, she pressed her palms to the earth. The silver light surged outward, swallowing the battlefield. The cursed wolves howled once, then fell silent. When the brilliance faded, only 3 figures remained, Ronan barely standing, Kieran unconscious in the dirt, and Lyra, glowing faintly, her mark now a crown of light across her skin. The curse had broken, but so had something in her. Her body swayed, and as she fell, Ronan caught her, his trembling voice cracking. "Stay with me, Luna, please." Her eyes fluttered open, silver fading to pale blue. "Did we win?" He pressed his forehead to hers. "You did." Above them, the blood moon began to wane, its crimson hue bleeding into dawn. The night's fury was over, but its cost had yet to be counted. The dawn came softly, too softly for the ruins it revealed. The battlefield lay quiet now, scattered with silver ash where shadows had once breathed. The curse was gone, yet silence carried its own ache. Ronan knelt beside Lyra's still form, the morning light washing over her pale face. Her heartbeat was faint but steady. The glow of the lunar mark had faded to a whisper against her skin. He brushed her hair back, voice raw. "You kept your promise, now let me keep mine." From behind him, the surviving wolves stood in reverent stillness. No one spoke. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Then, like the first sigh of spring, a silver mist gathered in the air. It shimmered and twisted until a figure stepped forth. A woman cloaked in starlight, her eyes infinite and kind. The moon goddess. Ronan bowed his head, trembling under the divine presence. Lyra stirred faintly, drawn toward the light. "Daughter of the moon," the goddess spoke, her voice echoing like music through water. "You have broken the chain that bound your blood, but the balance of life demands choice." Lyra's lips parted weakly. "Choice," the goddess nodded. "2 paths lie before you, one of vengeance, stake the throne, punish those who cast you aside and rule in solitude, or..." Her gaze softened, "Forgive, heal, choose love and bind the worlds as one." Lyra's throat ached as memories surged. The fire, the laughter of those who mocked her, the sting of Kale's rejection, the pain of every secret she carried. She looked at Ronan, his eyes, gold and steady, full of fear and love. He said nothing, but his silence begged, stay. Lyra turned back to the goddess, voice breaking. I've seen what vengeance does. I don't want to rule through pain. The goddess smiled faintly. Then speak your truth. Lyra took Ronan's hand, their fingers trembling together. I choose love. The air trembled. Silver fire enveloped them both, wrapping their bodies in luminous threads. Ronan gasped as the bond between them reignited. Stronger, purer, reborn under the dawn. Their hearts beat as one, their souls merging in a harmony older than the stars. The goddess raised her hand, blessing the bond. So it shall be written, the mate bond reforged, forged not by blood or prophecy, but by choice. The light faded. The goddess dissolved into mist, her final words lingering like a caress on the wind. Rise, Princess Luna, your destiny awaits. Lyra's eyes opened fully now, clear and alive. Ronan laughed through his tears, pulling her close. I thought I'd lost you. She smiled softly against his chest. You can't lose what's written in the stars. Above them, the last trace of the blood moon vanished, leaving only the pale silver of dawn, a new beginning and a love strong enough to rewrite fate itself. The palace bells tolled beneath a sky of gentle silver, each note echoing across the rebuilt courtyard. The scent of rain and moonflowers lingered in the air, fresh and alive. The darkness that once haunted the kingdom had lifted. Finally, the silver moon pack was free. Lyra walked slowly down the grand hall, the train of her gown whispering over the marble floor. Every torch flickered in reverence as she passed. Her heart, though steady, still carried the memory of fire and loss. Your people await you, princess, murmured a maid, bowing low. Lyra paused, her reflection glimmering in the polished floor. No longer the timid servant who once carried trays through these halls. Her silver eyes now held the calm of the moon and the fire of a queen reborn. The great doors opened. Sunlight poured in, gilding the crowd gathered outside. Wolves and nobles alike bowed low as she stepped onto the balcony. The air hummed with emotion. Ronan stood at the edge of the dais, dressed in ceremonial armor, his golden gaze fixed on her. Pride and longing warred in his expression. The elder seer's voice rose over the crowd. By the will of the moon goddess and the blood of the royal line restored, we crown Lyra of the silver moon pack, Princess Luna reborn. A crown of silver and light descended upon her head. As it touched her hair, a ripple of warmth swept through the people. Every wolf bowed deeper, their howls rising in unison, an anthem of rebirth. Lyra lifted her chin, her voice clear and steady. We have bled beneath the same moon, lost under the same shadow, but no more. The curse is broken, not by fear, not by fire, but by forgiveness. Together we rise. The crowd erupted in cheers, their roars shaking the mountains themselves. When the sound faded, Lyra turned, only to find Ronan kneeling before her, Alpha Ronan. She whispered, startled. He looked up, eyes shimmering with emotion. Not Alpha, not anymore. Today, I kneel not as your protector, but as your mate if you'll have me. The world seemed to hold its breath. Lyra smiled through tears. You've always had me. She reached for him and he rose, pulling her into his arms as the pack cheered once more. Their lips met beneath the glow of the moon, gentle, infinite, sealing their bond not as ruler and warrior, but as equals. The goddess's voice echoed faintly through the wind, soft as a lullaby. Love reigns where blood once burned. And as the night fell, the silver moon kingdom shone brighter than ever, ruled by a queen of light and a mate who chose her heart above all thrones. Their story had begun in fire and ended in moonlight, and the stars watching from above whispered their names in blessing.